Okay, so the documentation from Ex Libris is rather lengthy. Yoel has a session that he did at the end of last year that is on their YouTube channel, Ex Libris YouTube channel, on Fiscal Rollover as well. That's only 30 minutes. So if you're doing this and want to follow along with him as you do it, that's also an option. But today, I'll just go ahead and run through the process so that we can remember what it is we're doing. I think the mistake that I'm sure a few of you have experienced this as well, but I make this mistake is I go in and I go to acquisitions and I go to or I go to configuration and acquisitions and the fund and ledger fiscal period. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to add a row because you're like, I can add a row. And that is in fact not how you roll over a fiscal period in Alma. So you don't even have to be in administration. Hi, needy dog. Stop. Get down. You just go to acquisitions, advanced tools, and the first step, the one that creates the new fiscal period, is rollover ledgers, which seems a little silly because it doesn't say create new fiscal period. But you're going to add a job, and these questions are a mix of questions about the new ledger you are creating and about the one you are copying. So if you want the same allocation or like budgeted amount to be copied from the last one, you would say, create allocation budget from allocation budget balance. If you are rolling funds over, and so you're like, okay, well, I had 1,500 and I spent 800 on programs and I want to roll over this $700 that's left, you would do cash balance. You can roll over both or you can do none. If you do both, or if you do allocation balance, you're going to get this FPC factor, and that is the amount which you want the allocation to increase by. So if you don't want it to increase, you don't need to fill anything out. But like if you're rolling over, like your electronic resources budget, and you know that the increase in cost is going to be 3.23%, you can put that here. So we're going to say none because we don't have money in this. This is a sandbox, and this is basically how you do it if you're only using the fiscal periods for like non-acquisitions stuff. Ledger, some of you may, in using acquisitions, have different ledgers that you wish to deal with differently, and so you can roll them over individually. You can also just do all. Action is actually regarding the ledger that you are from the previous period. So are you going to copy that one, or are you going to delete the old one when you create the new one? So most likely you just want to copy it. The create status for rollover ledgers is less likely to need to be done in draft. Creating a draft of the PO lines is more likely to be the process you need because it can show you any errors that are happening with individual PO lines. So we're just going to make it active, and then you can only go back. It used to be 2 years, but I think it's only the previous year. Or it could be that it's only showing me this because 22 is not active in this sandbox. But it will still only max out at 2 years. So we're going to make the copy from the last, oh, no, this is right, because we're going into 25. So in fact, we could do this twice. Okay. And then you can choose to copy notes or attachments. So we're going to add and close. And it shouldn't take too long. So as you can see, and we're finished. Now, we've got our, so yeah, Tracy, jump on in.
I have a question about the from year because I think this was set up because our fiscal year goes from 6/30 to 6/29. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't show fiscal year 2023. So I think ours was set up differently. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yes, it will show your fiscal periods as you can see them in the configuration, acquisitions, and then fund and ledger fiscal period. So this one, because it's the sandbox, is just set up with this code. And I'm going to change this to FY 2024 to match the convention. Start date, end date, and we're going to save. Once it is created, so if you have messiness, you can delete it, but you can't do much else, which is weird in here because you can't, I don't even know why you can't add a row. Anyway, so now, because this is actually a year behind, we could go to acquisitions, rollover ledgers, add job. And we see now we're copying it from FY24, make it active. So now this sandbox is up to date. So then the step after this is to roll over the PO lines. And it's right here below. And similarly to the ledgers, you can do them all at once. You can do them one at a time. The encumbrance calculation can be based on the previous fiscal period's encumbrance, so what was attached to that PO line or what was actually spent. Again, you see the FPC factor, so you can increase it if need be by a set percentage, and you can copy it from either of the last 2 fiscal years now that we actually have the 2 fiscal years. You can also go one library at a time. Once you choose a library, you can also choose a PO line if you need to go one at a time for that. So if you have a PO line for different e-resources and you want the FPC amount to be different for each one rather than generalized. So we've got all kinds here. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do all the libraries. And then this check over encumbrance will put into place the same encumbrance rules that exist currently. Report mode is the one that will start it as a draft, so you can see if there are any errors. If you have continuous orders and standing orders that would obviously be rolling forward, it's a good way to check what you have there. You probably don't want to be rolling one-time orders over unless you've not received them. You do not need to, Nicole's asked in chat if you need to roll over ledgers twice. You don't. If you're up to date, you should only have to do it once. This sandbox did not have FY24. So in order to create FY25, I had to create 24. So that there wasn't a weird gap because I don't want to start making this sandbox messy. So note I'm using report mode. If you do not use acquisitions, you don't need to roll over PO lines. So kind of every step of this is one more layer of do you use it, and may not be necessary for you. So I'm going to create a draft of the PO lines, and there weren't any in there because I guess they were all just one time only. And now if we go to acquisitions, we can view / review any of these. Oh my goodness. Oh, good. Okay. Okay. I was like, what? Okay. These are going to take forever. But now we can see all these sample ones, and we can do like just the ones that are in review. So the final thing, which I don't think anyone does, is to roll over resource sharing requests. And this is only relevant if you're doing fee-based resource sharing and you're waiting on payments. So really the most confusing thing, which I always forget, is that in order to add the new fiscal period, you don't actually go to fiscal period management in the configuration acquisitions module. You just go to acquisitions, advanced tools, and roll over ledgers. And then you will get the new fund and ledger fiscal period. So that is the process. So I can save that. And if we look now, you can see all these past ones are closed, but we've got these open, and I can close this one. Okay, voila. Yes, if you are using Rialto, you will have to start rolling over fiscal year because there will be, you will have to set up a fund for the Rialto purchases to, quote, be made against. And then each purchase will have its own PO line. It is pretend money. It's not like it's connected to a checking account. It's not like your own Barnes and Noble debit card or something. But it's so that you can track how much is being spent or how much is getting assigned to whichever librarian is making the selection. Uh, and then, you get your invoices and you deliver them to the business office, and the business office does the things and reports it in CTC link. So as we for Pierce, as we set up Rialto, one of the things that we had to do for Yakima was make sure that their fiscal periods were like in order and set up for the current fiscal period, and that there were funds that existed with ledgers, and there and that hierarchy, the like implementation support person will kind of like, because there's a two main ways you can think about it, is that like you have your fund that may have allocation, or what's the other thing, there's another, they can have an allocation under it or a general under it. Yeah, but then your ledgers live under the fund. So you might have like a general fund for all purchases, and then your ledgers, you want to give every single selector $2,000 to spend, and they can spend it on ebooks or physical books, or they can use it by serials, or you can set it up so there's a ledger of ebooks and a ledger of physical books. And then the selectors are making purchases based on material type. Um, so, and again, it's all fake money. It's just how you organize the purchases. Um, so yeah, so that's the process. And yes, the Rialto implementation people will not really help with that, um, which Yakima also experienced. They will basically just point you to some documentation about creating the funds and ledgers. Um, so I dug into it with Yakima, and I think I'm slightly more helpful than I was then. But yeah, if you're thinking about Rialto, or if you're doing some reorganization, some record keeping, definitely take the opportunity to um figure out what's going on with your fiscal periods now. If you do not have a fiscal period that is like existing for the last 2 years, then we have to contact Ex Libris to create that fiscal period to get rolled over. And so it's good to do that in advance. Kirsty says Seattle uses different ledgers for outside funding sources like grants or other academic departments. Yeah, so there's kind of all different ways that you can organize. You just want to know how you're going to organize them when you start setting it up, so you don't have a mess. Um, so yeah, I would welcome discussion or questions or tips. This is one of those, there's kind of three things that you want to do the end of June, beginning of July, and it's fiscal year rollover. You probably need to set up your Alma calendars for next year. So get your term dates and your holidays in, and pull your counter data and your e-resources availability and all that for iPads, ACRL, or even if iPads doesn't exist, pull it anyway, because just have it. So that's the end of June list. Any questions, comments? Anyone want to like jump into their situation and get group support?
So I don't know if Seattle still does this, but when I was at Seattle, Kirsty can correct me if I'm wrong, but we had Alma analytics reports to find open POLs that we did not want to roll over into the next year. And so we'd run a analytics report and clean up those POLs before fiscal rollover.
Uh, that sounds like an excellent idea, and I'm assuming it's still very much possible. We can jump in and since they actually use acquisitions, we can go look at analytics. So that if anyone is interested in throwing together that kind of a report for themselves.
We try to do something similar. Like we do try to like do some cleanup before the rollover. Make sure that
you're not
things are
taking
things are
junk into the next.
Yeah, we try.
So I am guessing that you're going to use the funds expenditure subject area, but since I don't really, and let's see what's in here. So of course it's got a million different, so we can look at our fiscal period. So you can look and you can see, well, let's search status maybe. Fund status, invoice status, PO line status. Oh, and look, there's even a Rialto order status.
I mean, you can also just like go into your PO line, your receiving list and just like export that and like have a look at like the age of all of those. Be like, which of these are we gonna cancel? And then like, cancel things that are like definitely like not gonna be received, that have like been canceled by the vendor. And delete those bibs if you're gonna delete them, if you're not gonna reorder them. And sometimes we just do it that way.
I'm trying to figure out. And do you use PO line identifier or label? Do you know?
I usually just go into Alma and look at the receiving list. Yeah, I forget. Like I always get it wrong
Here's
the first
the
time I look at it
identifier
in analytics. Yeah, because it is weird.
and then the label is not helpful. Kirsty's notes confirm that invoices submitted for payment to accounting have been marked paid in Alma, and then check on status of one-time and continuous POLs that are in status of waiting for invoice, and then clean up one-time POLs with the status of in review, manual packaging, ready, and sent. So so yeah, you can totally do it just in Alma in acquisitions. Since I don't even have these permissions in, so like you may not have the actual permissions to look at POs like I don't in Seattle, but I can still run this report and say, oh hey, here's what you need to clean up. So Seattle does not clean up continuous POLs. Okay, it's in chat. Clean up continuous POLs that don't have the following 5 statuses. So, you know, we can say fund status needs to be active. Wow, it is so slow today.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to like continue rolling over continuous POLs that are not active. That gives you the wrong idea about how much money you have.
So here we see the F, just now we've just got the 24. And I take fund status at whoop. And we just want to see the active ones. And now we've got all the various PO lines with their receiving status, and Seattle's in good shape because we're basically only seeing them for the current fiscal year. We're not seeing them for past fiscal years because they've done all kinds of stuff. Okay, additional notes. If we forgot to release remaining encumbrance when creating invoice lines in Alma, things that have been paid may show up in the Alma reports above. To fix this, you may need to edit invoice lines on closed invoice. Check this analytics report before July 1st. So they have one, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Ooh, sorry. In the community shared reports for in the Whack to Click consortium folder under Seattle acquisitions and then encumbrances to be released. So Seattle definitely has a number of tools, and it looks like it's pretty easy to at least throw together a quick and dirty report using the subject area of funds expenditure. So that yes, leave and yeah, so I think I will this is being recorded and of course that includes chat. So we will have the ex libris documentation here. I will add the 30-minute and there's a nice 5-minute one that mostly is just the high level of like the order of things like I've done today. But I'll make sure that this is up and available as soon as possible. I actually have caught up, so we've got all of the open calls as recently as earlier this month that were recorded. One of the things that it made me realize is just how many videos or how many meetings we have. I mean, only 20 have been recorded so far this year, and we're only halfway through the year, and I haven't even recorded all of them. So lots of videos are up now. The notes and chat from those calls have not all been added to the description or been linked yet, but one step at a time. The training that we did with Mark Edick and Open Refine is up because I know a few folks missed that. I have already used the tools Thank you so much, SJ. I was like, why did I not figure this out sooner? So, um, yeah, fun times, and um, let me know if you need help untangling things. I am out of the office starting tomorrow, just for the rest of the week, because my daughter's birthday is Thursday. And then I'll be around most of the time. And next week starts our summer drop-ins and workshop schedule. Need to get this. I mean, it's still accurate, but the drop-ins link is here, and then the workshops are actually on the training page, but that open call link gets here. The Spanish language primo little workshop that we chatted about last week will be on June 26th. I didn't do registration for that one. And then I've already had quite a few registrations for pretty much all of these. Primo's the slowest so far, but it's also the furthest out, so that's not surprising. Or it's not even the furthest out, analytics is. But anyway, yeah, I'm excited. Good groups. See, I got the trainings on the website. So, and then yeah, I got all of 2023 into its own tab to keep things, and you can see, I think we meet too often. So I'm working on it, adding descriptions, and if there's a link on the date, that is to the Google Doc. However, I am hoping to just put those links into the recording description, so I'm not having to update it in two different places. So these won't show up. But yeah, got quite a few recorded from the first half of this year. So, and it just says most recent because the playlist is set to just add on at the bottom. Anyway, anything else?
Carly, do you have a moment after the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.